Welcome to a live review of this Numbani game that we lost. This was in a scrimmage against the Denver Dissapointments. They're a Crusader Cup team owned by Senji over there. So we're going to be looking at individuals for once. So I think we're going to look at our tank line. I think that's a pretty good idea. So we can start with Winston here and see what we can dissect.
I am taking the objective. Join me.
Why don't we look at both tanks at the same time? We can talk about you guys as a pair.
I am taking the objective. Join me.
Diva was a little slow on that. Yeah, if we look at that back. Yeah, that's some really optimistic range there. You're cool. You're way far. Even with the old range, I think we would have still been out.
Once more unto the breach.
I am taking the objective. Join me.
The issue with this, like this first whole half, is that in the beginning it's fairly like it revolves around this one plan of like the Genji touching point, so you don't really get to see that much of individual play, team play. You don't really get to see much of anything, but we'll see how this evolves.
Damage output increased.
He fucked up. Did your Diva not go with you? I don't think she did. Did you fly and fly back? I don't think you had the time for that. Oh no, you just didn't go. Okay, but as soon as Winston dies, you should be able to reset. Because the issue with being like in this kind of deep flank is Divas that, like, so you could be trying to play like Assassin Diva, I guess, but, you know, first of all, they're playing really close together. So in terms of spacing, you can't really get one. And in terms of actually the heroes, like maybe you can get Hanzo if he's like really out of position, but other than that, you might end up just feeding or staggering yourself. Like that.
Hi there.
Hello there.
In theory here, Mercy should be damage boosting Diva to get mech back, but small things. In better news though, we have built a Nano Blade. Wow, this is a really slow plan. You shouldn't be picking.
My ultimate is ready.
Unless you're scouting, but we don't need to be scouting because we know where they are. And you have DPS scouting as well.
Damage boost engaged.
Oh wait, no, I was telling you to peek to get the nano boost back, right? Maybe I'm stupid. Okay, wait, like over here. Oh no, that was to get nano boost. That's my bad. I'm being an idiot.
Damage output increased.
Then you should be peeking actually, before the nano boost was built. So my bad. Okay, poison gets eaten. Okay. Nice little dodge there. Either your diva was early or you were late. Like, look. Like, look. I think you're late, actually. Diva's in a good position, but yeah, you came late. Yeah. Anyways. Oops. What's going on? Oh my mother of over ultimates. Holy moly. Okay. Let's see what triggered the bomb there. And just chuck it because why not? Okay. So, God, the beeping noise. Okay. So, how are we meant to win this fight? Like in the previous fight review, I talked about win condition and ulting when your win condition is still intact, and ulting when the enemy's win condition is still intact, unless you're doing it maybe to like secure a fight or something. But point being, is everything working? Click. Good. Okay. Point being, so if we look at how this fight goes initially, okay, Archer's in the recall. So when the Genji goes for the Dragon Blade, or the Nano Blade really. Okay, so right here. No, wait. Here. Okay. So at this moment in time, what has happened? So we've invested Nano Blade and Genji's Dash. Okay. That's a lot of resources. Both tanks have invested their movement abilities, which is also fairly big. And I believe Diva used micro missiles. Okay. So does Tracer have recall back? Tracer does, okay. But the Genji, the Winston, and the Diva are fairly low on resources. Now, what have they invested? Well, they've invested their Immortality Field, and now their Bastion Ultimate. And if we watch how this pans out, okay, their lamp gets destroyed. They invest at Matrix, but he dies. Okay. Now, if we look at their positioning, okay, so right now what? 417. Okay. If we look at their positioning pre-fight, Diva, get down there. You notice how they're all really tightly packed? And we go here. And they're all over the place, right? Which tells you they're not in the position they'd want to be in, right? Because their initial fight position is, where they want to be. Their Bastion's on the low ground. Their Orisa and... Is that a bomb? Okay, now they're trying to set up on point. Their Batiste is dead. So, the fight is fairly even. But in general, we still have the advantage because they're down a support, right? Now, you could say that, the Batiste dies to the Primal, but if we watch Genji... Okay, right here. you know, could have easily killed the Batiste. Sure, I missed the one slash, but like right there, if you hadn't hit him, he would have been dead. And you weren't in any danger of dying. And neither is the D.Va when she bombs right here. So the bomb is definitely a bigger overinvestment than the primal. Because primal came first. But still, they're both overinvestments. The way I'd use tank ults here is if we start to lose the fight, we can use tank ults to stabilize. We don't really need them to do whatever the fuck this is. Because primal, right, there's many ways you can use primal, but primal can do a lot of work in these tight, enclosed spaces where you can hit multiple people with your jump, you can hit multiple people with your, I don't know, your arms, right? You can slap them around. But the same concept applies to a nanoblade, but nanoblade is just that, but on steroids. So you see what I mean? If you try to find value with a primal in enclosed spaces, but you have a Genji there, you don't really need the primal on top of the nanoblade. Uh-oh.
Der Kampf ist noch nicht vorbei.
Wait a second. We'll just... get rid of that. Okay. How did Hanzo die? Text.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Der
Okay. Now, if we look at how... Okay, so this is like a fairly small dive, right? This is just clean up. So if you die here, it doesn't really matter. I think that's kind of the point here. Like, you know, with crazy spawn advantage. If you die, who cares? Okay, so you jump in. Did you get a melee? I always love hearing defense matrix in slow motion.
The battle continues.
Okay. Okay.
This will protect us.
So I want you to notice something here. Notice how far the Hanzo gets launched back. Now in this situation, that actually pays off because the Batista invests that immortality field, but that comes out in response to the dive, if I'm not mistaken. All right.
The battle continues.
Yeah. Okay, so unless you're like this huge brain Winston, and you know he's gonna immortality field in that space, right? And you're freaking 900 IQ, but no matter how smart you are, I don't think you predicted that. So it works here because you knock the Hanzo out of that immortality field range, right? And he dies. But say if the Batiste didn't mess up, and that didn't happen, what you want to do when you jump a target like that,
Der Kampf ist noch nicht vorbei.
because your jump pack has that knockback, on top of his leap, he just goes, oops. He just goes flying. You want to land, like, hold on, I gotta rewind this just 2 seconds. So, oh god, come on, work with me here.
Der Kampf ist
Okay, right here, perfect. You want to land here, so that you boop him this way, so that he's gonna try to retreat this way, but you've already booped him in. But otherwise, the dive positioning is fairly good, right? D.Va's where she needs to be. But there, I would say that you make the mistake of bubbling too early when you don't really need to. Because, like, there you have your D.Va right behind you, your defense matrix is in, and at the time you place the bubble, like, you land, like, at the edge of the bubble, and you kind of want to land nearer to the center than how you landed. This is just clean up.
Mecha activated. I'm back. Der Kampf ist noch nicht vorbei.
fat finger, but that's okay. We don't care about those. Okay, so this position's really good because you can drop down on the enemy without using cooldowns, and when they pressure you, jump back up. Now you're chasing a McCree here. Blah blah blah. Primal, don't care.
Barrier.
Okay, again, investing bubble too early. Like, McCree would... I don't think the bubble actually blocked any damage. Like, any damage from that McCree, did it?
Appear.
Escorting the payload.
Barrier.
No, it didn't. You tanked the shot. Yeah, that bubble's taking damage from something else. So notice how you kill him and then you're still fairly safe, even if you use bubble. So, yeah. I think a lot of Winstons fall into the trap of using that shield like a Reinhardt or a Race's shield. And you really want to establish a whole different mentality for that. But I like the fact that you do go pressure him, but realistically, you know, D.Va can do that too, but it works either way. I want to go watch the D.Va here. Okay, so if we want to pick this play right here, starting back here.
Enemy sighted.
So okay, you dive in with micro missiles. So this is a very, like, I've seen you do this a lot here, but you want to be looking to defense matrix your Genji, right? Because here, yes, Winston is going in, but first of all, I don't think you even have line of sight on your Winston at the beginning there because he comes in late. So you want to make sure that the Genji can't be hit by cooldowns like this sleep. And if we look at how you position yourself when you actually dive in, you know, where's your Genji? Okay, you know, you get stuck, that's fine. Okay, Blade comes out, so you jump down, which is nice. And you fly a bit ahead. How do you not eat that sleep there? That's really weird. Oh, you're barely out of range. So yeah, like, it's okay to just be like totally in that honest face. Either that, or you're right behind your Genji. So you can treat Genji like Winston, where you dive in and then you fly in behind him and you eat some stuff. Or you go up in the face of the Ana. And then afterwards, you don't need to protect the Genji like this. Worst case scenario, if he dies, like, who cares? You know, you've already won. Might as well get the clean out. Easier, at least. Whoa, that was a ballsy dive. Okay, so God, my voice. So here, you should be doing one of two things. You should either be looking for your Winston as D.Va, or you should be looking for places where your Winston would dive. So, because, okay, so this whole thing, right, is not great, because D.Va's here and then Winston's there. So, you know, either Winston doesn't know where you are, or you don't know where he is. Either way, the way you could salvage this situation is, as he's saying, oh, I'm gonna go dive whoever, you know, you hear him call this, and as he's diving like that, you go this way. Now, this isn't optimal, only because you really want to have this defense matrix, you know, like that. And if this is Winston, you want this to be, and like you're here, right? That's the optimal dive formation. You don't want it to be like Winston's going this way and defense matrix is kind of like that or like this, you know. You want it to be like enveloping the Winston in this like shield of defense matrix. So yeah, you don't need to be, you know, breaking shield. You know, Diva's great for shield break, but you're not playing Orisa Diva, you're playing dive. Do you go in? Oh no, you get dragged. But also that dive by Winston was really crazy. But regardless, like, it's the whole idea of trusting your shot caller. So you don't question whether the dive is good when the Winston calls it. If he's in, you're in too. Actually, I want to look at you diving again.
I'm on.
Oh no, you get stunned.
Onward and upward.
Walk it off.
Greetings.
That's teamwork.
Okay, so I think that same concept arises that we talked about with the Hondo on that as well. No, you're dead. Come on. Okay, first person, please. Boom, 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 boom. And where's Diva? Watch the fight from both perspectives. Oh, just kidding, he's dead. Okay, it seems like you're always not. Oops. What? Oh, what the hell is going on? Wait, let me watch that one more time.
I need healing.
Okay. Well, the timing was a little early again. You always seem to be earlier than you need to be. You're either earlier than your Winston, or you're earlier than your Genji by a little bit. Get you mech with a bomb. Okay. So here you could realistically use bomb for remech. And another concept, okay, so there's two things that I'm not really seeing from the tanks here in general. So the first thing is just how dive works. Because with dive, it's the idea that if you don't win in the first 5 seconds, you lose. You have a very small window to do something, and if you can't capitalize, you lose. Because as soon as you dive in and invest your resources, you immediately put yourself at a disadvantage. And you have to equalize, like you put yourself at such a massive disadvantage. You have these fairly, vulnerable tanks in the middle of god all nowhere with no cooldowns to get out because they just jumped in. So if they don't kill a bunch of people, you lose. Now, that's the first thing. Another thing is using cooldowns without hard engaging. Like, how do I explain this? A lot of the times that you use jump, that you use boosters, during the posture phase or the engage phase, it's always to jump in. It's never to find a better position to jump in from. And I always talk about this, about staging the dive, and the concept still appears of dive isn't always about hard engaging. It's not just walk up to point A, jump in, and then hope for the best, right? It's all about opportunity. So you don't always have to wait for the opportunity. You can try to make those opportunities by trying to, find find places to flank around, find better positions to jump in from, and talking about the first concept, jumping out after you've used your initial cooldowns. Unless you have guaranteed won the fight, you should not be jumping in further, because you're at a disadvantage. So reset, jump back, play slow. Once you get your cooldowns back, try it again.
Time's up.
다시 한판 해보자고.
I'm curious to see how we use tank ults here. That's what I care about now.
Damage output increase.
Halo, stop.
Thirty seconds remaining.
Time's running out. Everyone attack. My ultimate is on. We're out of time. Attack. We're out of time. Attack.
Does it not show your bubble health if we were looking in replay?
Barrier.
Oh, God. I'm just stupid. Wow, you are lucky. 42 HP on that bubble. 42. Okay. So let's talk about this. So this is called for a bomb engage dive, which is, you can question that call out, but, when you're low on time, you have to do something. Okay. So D.Va goes in with a bomb. Now, if we look at you, so you can kind of see, see their tank line, right? I'm pretty sure you know where their tank line is. You can see sort of their backline. You know the general direction where they are. They're by the right spawn door. And you know what heroes the backline's comprised of. You don't really know the exact locations of anyone because you can barely see them. So when you jump, you don't know where you're going. You're just kind of like, I'm jumping and I hope I land somewhere good. Now, there are many problems with this. So this is called a blind dive, right? You're diving when you don't know where to dive. So the first issue is the fact that you're blind diving. The second issue is that as Winston, you can take a lot less damage when your D.Va is not there to defense matrix you. And considering that she's in a bomb, this is not what you should be doing.
10 seconds remaining.
And as soon as you hear the high noon, so you're here, you can at least try to rotate back into cover. Because he's right here. And you see him too. So you got so lucky not getting killed by him. Like, look at the bubble health. Look. 42. 42 health. And he would have killed you right there with that bullet. You are lucky. Okay, so there, what I would have liked to see you do before you use Primal. Were you trying to use Primal to react to the Deadeye?
We're out of time. Attack.
I don't think so. If you were that. Okay, so your jump was 1 second to cooldown. So rather than primaling,
We're out of time.
so what you can do is you can jump on him and then laser him down. Then you do the melee and you land on him and then you primal. And, you fucking melt him.
I'm on fire.
It also doesn't look like you know how to short jump. And if you do, then you're not doing it. Oh, you should have been looking for one. Wait, let's go back.
Halo, stop.
Yeah, because as soon... Okay, so the way we play this, like, not just you, but as a team, this is my theory, and this should be our team's theory, is when a McCree is using Deadeye, you always assume that he's still in Deadeye until you know he's fired. And you don't know that he's fired, so you should be looking for him to defense matrix.
I'm on fire!
Because you don't know who could be in his line of sight. Okay, you're Winston's dead, so you're effectively the main tank. Sort of. Okay, you go for Hanzo, yeah. The blind dive into Primal really might have lost us this.
Here you go!
Is there anything else? Respawn. Attack.
Further.
You do jump at the end of your jump pad, which is good. Okay. Yeah, you need to be meleeing on the end of your jumps. And punching.
Ready for battle.
Okay, here we're trying out this new strategy. Don't we lose this?
Ready for battle.
I think we do. Yeah, we lose this map.
5, 4,
We lose it real fast too, apparently.
2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Enemy seen.
I believe you swap off to the Arisa here later.
Move back.
Also here, I don't know why. I don't know if this was called. I don't think it was, but tanks are meant to be playing up here. The way we want to play this dive is tanks play up here. Because it, like, if we look at the plan, if we look at how someone can attack, you can attack from here, you can attack from underneath, you can attack from up high, you can attack from main. And now if you're positioned up here, you can, so if they come through main, so say this is position 1 and this is position, right? Okay, so this is position 1, so this is position 2. Now what you want is you want to be able to soft engage on the enemy in the most possible attack routes. So if you're here, where can you soft engage? You can go, if they come through main, so that's 1. And if they come through the underneath, you can kind of soft engage by walking over, barely. So that's 2. So you get 2 ways with position 1. Position 2, you can drop down, so that's 1. You can laser them up here, that's 2. You can jump down here, that's 3. And you can rotate and jump down, so that's 4. So if you're in this position, you can soft engage wherever they come from. So like, imagine as Winston, if you're up here, oops, don't want pro. If you're up here, you could be lasering all these guys. And be fairly safe as well. You don't even have to jump down. So instead here, you're just kind of looming around. So D.Va dies early there because she's on touch duty, but let's see. You got very little healing there. Okay, you also jump. Let's see, what do you see that triggers your jump? And what are you jumping on? Okay, you jumped on like a half HP Zarya without your D.Va, right? Your D.Va's dead. So again, that's the whole idea of Winston is much less survivable without D.Va. So in this situation, you just want to wait, right? You know, we have ticks to give up here. You want to wait until you find an opportunity where you can kill someone. You're probably dead if you jump, right? You have no D.Va and they have a Reaper and a McCree. So if you jump in, you're going to die. So you might as well get something for your life.
Mecha activated. Now show them.
Our D.Va played just fine there, though. Well, not in terms of initial positioning, but in terms of, you know, touching the point.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
I don't think that barrage was called, so I can't blame you for the DM. It's probably my worst part. I don't call my DPS ults. But let's look at this here.
This will protect.
Okay, that was also a blind dive, when it could have not been a blind dive. Because you jump onto a Reaper, but here you had the opportunity to scout. So earlier I said not to peek because you don't need to scout, but here you do need to peek to scout. Like, no one's gonna one-shot you. Worst case scenario, maybe McCree hits like 2 consecutive headshots. But if you're just jiggle peeking, you could have easily found the Ana, so you don't have to do this kind of weird shit where you dive onto the Reaper.
Need healing.
Okay, on the engages, less shooting, more defense matrix. Because there, you should be defense matrixing, Winston should be saving his bubble, because you're defense matrixing him. Then when you run out, if he's still in engine, then he places bubble. We somehow kill Reinhardt. Okay, up there. Overall, you're a bit damage hungry.
I'm ready to initiate self-destruct sequence.
Let them up.
Okay, also, okay, real quick, I know this is about tanks, but I want to talk about, like, I know you said this is a zoning Deadeye, Aiden, and I remember you saying this is a zoning Deadeye, but I want to talk about why I don't like this Deadeye, regardless of whether it's zoning or not.
Let them up.
Okay, so we amp matrix, so look what they're doing. They're retreating because of the amp matrix, so we don't need to double zone them, right? They don't plan on pushing up anyways. That's why I don't like this Deadeye. So, okay. Here's when you want to talk about zoning ultimates, right? Zoning works really well on attack, right? Because the defenders have to, or rather, the defenders want to occupy a space, which is usually the objective. So, say if they push up, so we're controlling this space. Now, if they push up and say we're on attack, and you Deadeye, and I don't know, we amp and we hold our Reinhardt's shield, and they push us back. Now, that's a good Deadeye because it zones us back from the position we want to be in. Now, if we talk about your Deadeye, even if this amp matrix is in here, and I don't really like the amp matrix either because, sure, it zones them, but like, it's just like, so what, right? We don't really get out any long-term resources. Sure, we delay them like 7 seconds, but like, you know, like using amp matrix to delay 7 seconds. Imagine if they had pushed through and they're already over here and you're back here and then you Deadeye. You want to make it so that you force them to retreat, but you want to do that when they've already committed. So that in order for them to retreat, they have to abandon their advantage maybe in the fight. Maybe they have to lose a man because they can't retreat fast enough. You know, all these things. You don't want to do it before anything even happens. Unless you're on attack. That's a different story. But here, we're gaining very little. Like, look how that Deadeye makes space for their team. I mean, it was a kind of weird timing. Okay. So, again, I think it's the bubble usage. It comes out way too early. Because notice how you use it, and then you kind of just walk away from it. You know, like, the bubble barely protects you at all. But I like the general engagement concept there. Don't bomb. Okay.
Howdy. Hello?
Time to be young to die.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Oh, this is nice. Ah, okay. The farthest I would have pushed up was this corner right here. Where is your Batiste? Oh, is he respawning or is he flanking? Oh, Ock. Oh, Ock, what are you doing? Alright. Well, that's a... Oh, no, he was going to heal you there, but you had to back off. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. We tried. Not the most important death, though. I mean, like, that's pretty bad to talk about in terms of things I can tell you. Just pushed up a little too far.
Greetings. Hello.
Okay, when he deadeyes, you want to be looking to fly into him with your defense matrix. Instead of kind of sitting there for a second. No. Okay. So, I was the one who told you. Oh, no, we're about to lose this. Just kidding. Just kidding.
The payload
Actually, then, you should have bombed earlier, which is funny. Unless you were trying to eat the crap. I'm very confused now. Okay, so, I once told you that you should bomb in a grav. Now, that concept applied, mainly for goats. Why does that apply to goats? Well, it applies to goats because in goats, right, the enemy team wants to take close range engagements. So especially in a grav, they want to be close up to do that damage, except for like the Zen and the Lucio. Point being, you can prevent their Reinhardt and Zarya and so on from getting some damage in if you bomb. Now this doesn't apply into double hit scan. I would have liked to see you bomb earlier. I didn't know that the payload was so close to the golden box.
Heroes never die.
It is a good habit to always pull people upwards.
Let them up.
Alright. You're pulling a little too early. You almost seem like you're panic pulling. But I think that's the end here. Nope. Nope. Yeah, okay. So, overall, if we talk about dive, D.Va, you need to make sure you really know where your Winston is and when he's going in, so you can be behind him with defense matrix, not your micro missiles. And Winston, you need to stop placing your bubbles like instantly, right? This isn't Reinhardt where you just want to shield the damage. You use that and you don't have it for another, what, like 12 seconds, I think it is? You know, and it's gone. And it's there to block cooldowns, not damage. So if you can work with your diva, the time, the ending of the defense matrix with the start of the bubble and stuff like that. Short jumping as well, like. Look at Winston.
Imagination is the essence of discovery.
If you're right here, right? If I, it's a bad example because I can't go past him. Hold on. Okay, I'll be used to this. So if I short jump, I land on him. But if I do like a normal jump, I'll go past him, right? So, like that's the whole concept of when people are so close, you can't really afford to do a normal jump. And on top of that, you want to look to melee right before you land. And if you do it perfectly, let's see if I can time this. Come on, come back. Well, he's fucked up.
Hey,
Wait back. Come on.
excuse
messed it up
me
again.
for dropping him.
I'll try with a normal jump. I think it's easier. No, I fucked it up. Okay. Either way, you can make it so that the fist of the melee is only there like that. I melee there, but you can barely see the fist. So that entire time, you know, you jump, you laser, and then that was a melee there, and then you drop and you hit them. So you combine the jump back damage with your fist, and also landing behind them. So if they're trying to retreat, you want to land behind them, so that it makes it more difficult. So you don't move them away from you. Other than that, that's like the main thing. It's like all these small things. Because once you get, like, no, we're not like grandmasters, but we're getting to the point where it's not like these gigantic mistakes that people are making. They're becoming fairly small, especially in dive. So, yeah, just these small things I want you guys to improve on. See you guys in the next one.